Ab 1. Agbede Crescent, in Ilorin, was the kind of street where the scent of frying peppers mingled with laughter and the rhythmic knock of pestles from distant kitchens. The people were warm, the culture thick like early morning pap, and greetings were currency. Everyone traded in them. Children played under the mango trees. Elders like Baba Ganiyu sat outside with their radios crackling, and Aisha Abdul helped her mother stock the provision kiosk near the T-junction. Then one morning, a new aroma joined the familiar scents of the street. It came from the far end of Agbede Crescent, soft, smoky, and rich with spice. A small food joint had opened overnight, painted in bright orange, with a sign in chalk, Amala Begiri, Evadu Assorted. It was run by a plump, cheerful woman called Mama Sikinat, with her two quiet daughters, Risi and Ranka, and a young man everyone assumed was her son, Tajuddin. From the very first plate, their cooking was magic. People came in droves, mechanics, traders, even office workers from town. The amala was soft like sponge, the gabagiri thick and golden, the meats tender and spicy. "It's like they brought Ibadan's recipe book to Ilorin," someone said between mouthfuls. Baba Ganiyu, ever the eyes and ears of the Crescent, started spending more time outside the shop. "These ones cook like they have juju in their hands," he joked one morning, earning laughter. Aisha Abdul stopped by after errands, licked her fingers clean, and nodded approvingly. If food was a language, these people speak it fluently. Within 2 weeks, the shop became a fixture. Though the family didn't talk much, their consistency and politeness gave no room for suspicion. They greeted when greeted, served without fuss, and cleaned like clockwork. And as people ate, smiled, and savored, no one noticed the small details. The two dogs next door at Malam Dogo's house had begun to bark. Not at everyone. Just when the new family walked by. Agbede Crescent was alive with praise for the new Amala joint. People lined up in the afternoons, often joking about how Mama Sikinat was surely using the holy spoon of Sango to cook. Her food had become a unifier. Strangers became friends over steaming bowls, and even old quarrels seemed to dissolve between mouthfuls. But not everyone was at ease. Malam Dogo's compound was the closest to the Amala joint, and his two dogs, strong, intelligent Alsatians, had begun acting strangely. At first, it was subtle, low growls, ears perked, a bit of pacing. But as the days passed, their behavior became impossible to ignore. Every time Mama Sekinat, Risi, Ranke, or Tajuddin walked past, the dogs erupted in fury, barking, snarling, leaping at the gate with eyes wild. At first, Malam Dogo thought they were just being territorial. "Maybe they smell pepper," he chuckled to Baba Ganiyu, watching them from the corridor. But Baba Ganiyu, a man who had lived through 3 coups and countless mysteries, narrowed his eyes and said, "Dogs see what people refuse to look at." The street began to take notice. Aisha Abdul, who had grown fond of chatting with the Risi at closing time, mentioned it casually one morning. "Your dogs don't like them," she said to Malam Dogo, as one of the Alsatians growled at the passing siblings. "But they've done nothing wrong." "Abi?" Malam Dogo replied, confused. "They don't bark at the bread seller or the tailor or even the new bike man. But once that family pass, see?" The dogs were at it again, restless and angry. Still, the food joint flourished. Customers kept coming. Praise filled the air. No one dared confront the family directly. After all, they were clean, respectful, and never gave anyone a reason for concern. But as Baba Ganiyu sat under the neem tree one evening, stroking his beard thoughtfully, he said to Aisha, "When dogs cry out like that, and nobody listens, something unseen is knocking." See, the warning had been sounded, but no one knew yet what the dogs were trying to say. Weeks passed, and though Mama Sekinat's Amala remained unmatched, something subtle began to shift, like the faint smell of smoke before anyone sees flames. It started with the greetings. In a place like Agbede Crescent, Greetings weren't just polite. They were a cultural pillar. Every morning, elders expected a "Good morning, Baba." Every passerby deserved a nod or a smile. But one day, Aisha Abdul, balancing a crate of bottled drinks, passed the food shop and called out, "Good morning, Mama Sikinat." No response. The woman who once greeted with warmth didn't look up from the pot she stirred. Her daughters, Risi and Ronka, who used to offer shy waves, stared ahead like they hadn't heard anything. Tajuddin, usually quick to flash a friendly grin, focused coldly on counting change. Aisha blinked. Maybe they didn't hear me, she thought. The next day, she tried again, and the day after that. Still nothing. It wasn't just her. Baba Ganiyu noticed too. "They used to greet me every time I sat under this tree," he muttered, sipping pop from his enamel cup. "Now they pass like breeze." "Soon," the whispers began. "Shide vex?" Maybe something happened. Maybe dem too, they hear wet in the dogs they bark. But business continued. The shop still drew customers, the food remained delicious, and the family kept up their quiet, machine-like efficiency. Yet something had faded, something invisible but powerful, warmth. The family's silence spread like harmattan dust. Even regulars began to eat quickly and leave, unsettled by the cold glances and lack of conversation. It was as if the shop had lost its soul. And the dogs? They barked louder, longer, angrier. Morning and night, they growled, paced, snapped at the gate, their eyes always locked on the Amala sellers. "They're not just barking," Malam Dogo said to Baba Ganyu one morning. "They're warning us." But of what? No one had the answer. But the street had changed. The smiles were fewer, the greetings fainter. And though no one could put a finger on it, fear was beginning to settle in the hearts of those who once sang praises of Mama Sekinat's cooking. Something had begun to rot, quietly, invisibly. The sun still rose over Agbede Crescent, but it no longer felt like the same street. What used to be filled with music, children's laughter, and warm banter was now subdued, like a crowd holding its breath. The Amala shop remained open, the food still heavenly, yet more people began to eat in silence. There was something about the air inside the joint, heavy, stifling, thick with something unspoken. Even the most talkative customers left quickly, glancing back over their shoulders. One afternoon, Aisha Abdul stayed longer than usual after picking up a bowl of amala for her mother. As she waited for her change, she overheard Tajuddin whisper something to Ronke, a string of words sharp and alien. It wasn't Yoruba. It wasn't Hausa. It wasn't Igbo. "What language is that?" she asked softly, trying not to sound suspicious. Ronke's eyes darted to hers. For a split second, something cold flickered behind them. Then she smiled too quickly. "Nothing," she said. "Just teasing my sister." Aisha nodded, but her heart skipped. That wasn't teasing. That was coded, deliberate, chilling. Later that day, she told Baba Ganiyu, who frowned deeply. "You know, I've listened closely too," he murmured. "That tongue. I don't recognize it, and I've lived long enough to know every tribe in this country." As if echoing his worry, the dogs next door barked viciously, claws scratching the gate with frustration. Their eyes were wild with something no one else could see. Mama Sekinat and her family had become shadows, visible yet unreachable. They barely spoke to each other, and when they did, it was in that strange, unknowable tongue. Customers noticed, but no one dared say it aloud. The shop was too good, too essential. People needed it. But as the week dragged on, more began to wonder. Who were these people? Why didn't they sweat in the heat like others? Why did they never leave the shop, not even to fetch water or greet neighbors? And why? Why did it feel like the food tasted more bitter the longer you knew them? Something wasn't right. Not with the greetings, not with the silence, and definitely not with the language. The street knew it. The dogs knew it first. By now, Agbede Crescent was buzzing, but not with joy. The once beloved Amala shop now stirred more whispers than praise. Children were told not to linger. Men who once bantered over meat cuts now carried takeaways in silence. The food still satisfied the stomach, but unsettled the heart. Then a new realization struck the street. Nobody had ever seen Mama Sekinat's family leave the shop, not once. Aisha Abdul, curious and cautious, started watching from her mother's kiosk. Morning till evening, the routine was the same. The door opened, food was served, and at night, the lights went off, but no one came out. "How do they sleep inside that heat box?" she asked one night, sweat soaking her hijab. "No windows, no ventilation, not even a fan." "I've lived in Ilorin all my life," replied her mother, eyes narrowing. "Even lizards sleep outside in this heat." Yet, night after night, the family stayed inside. No power supply, no gen humming, just darkness and silence. Malam Dogo, now deeply unsettled, noticed another pattern. His dogs, once gentle giants, barked themselves hoarse every evening as the family entered. But once the door shut, they whined like pups, trembled, and backed away from the gate, as if some unseen force pushed them back. "I don't understand it," he said to Baba Ganiyu. "These dogs are warriors. I've seen them chase thieves off rooftops, but now they shake when that woman walks by." Baba Ganiyu nodded slowly, eyes heavy with age and memory. "There are things in this world, Malam, not of blood and bone, but of shadow and echo. Dogs hear them, we ignore them." Inside the shop, Risi and Ranka no longer looked like girls. Their eyes grew darker, their skin paler, and they moved like echoes of themselves. Tajuddin had stopped smiling altogether. "And Mama Sekinat?" She cooked, she stirred, she stared into pots like they held answers to questions no one dared ask. Still, the people came. Hunger overruled fear, but Agbede Crescent knew something was wrong. And the dogs, they barked not in confusion, but in warning. The first morning of the new year broke softly over Agbede Crescent, but peace did not come with the sun. Aisha Abdul, tasked with buying breakfast for her mother, walked briskly toward Mama Sekinat's shop. The chill of dawn hadn't yet lifted, but the smell of stew usually greeted early risers. Today there was only silence. She stopped. The shop was closed, not just locked, cleared out. No benches, no pots, no smoke, no smell. No sign anyone had ever been there. Aisha knocked, called out, circled the building. Nothing. She ran back, breathless. "Mama, they're gone! Everything is gone!" Within an hour, Agbede Crescent was alive with stunned whispers. Malam Dogo, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, rushed out with his dogs, who sniffed around the empty shop cautiously, tails tucked. "They didn't move out," he muttered. "They disappeared." Baba Ganiyu arrived, lips tight, arms crossed. He peered into the now dusty doorway. "No bowls, no cutlery, not even footprints," he said, as if they vanished into thin air. Neighbors remembered. No trucks, no farewells, no late-night loading. No one saw them leave. The same shop that fed the entire street for weeks was now a hollow shell. By noon, theories swirled like dry leaves. "Spirits," someone whispered. "Fugitives," another said. "Maybe they were being chased," a trader added. "But why did the dogs stop barking?" Aisha asked. "They barked for weeks, but last night, nothing." The dogs, once furious every time the family passed, now lounged in the shade like they had never known fear. And deep in their eyes was a peace no one could explain. The source of their distress was gone. Mama Sekinat, Risi, Ranke, Tajuddin gone. Gone without noise, gone without goodbye. Only the empty building remained, and in its silence, Agbede Crescent was left with questions that would never find answers. Yet, one truth lingered in the hearts of the old and the young, the fearful and the faithful. The dogs had always known, and the street had ignored their cry. Days passed, then weeks, but Mama Sekinat's shop remained shut, its walls now dust-streaked, its doorway a magnet for whispers. What was once the pride of Agbede Crescent had become a ghost, both in structure and in memory. Aisha Abdul often stopped across from it, basket in hand, eyes lingering on the closed door. She remembered the sweet taste of the gbegiri, the gentle nods from Rizi and Ronka, even the sharp, haunting language she once overheard. She remembered the shift, the coldness, the silence, the dogs. So did Baba Ganiyu, who now sat outside less and spoke more softly. "There are stories," he told the younger men who gathered to speculate. "Old Ilorin tales of spirits who return to feed, to remember, to mourn. They don't stay long." Others had wilder theories. Ritualists. Runaways from a secret cult. Aliens. But none could explain the missing pots, the cleared-out shelves, or how a family could disappear without a single witness on a busy street. Even more unsettling, the dogs. Since that dawn, they had never barked again at the building. They passed by without a sound. They no longer growled at shadows. It was as if a storm had passed and taken its thunder with it. "It's like whatever they were afraid of is gone," Malam Dogo said one evening, his voice barely above a whisper. "And somehow, I think they were trying to protect us." Agbede Crescent moved on. New sellers came. A woman tried to reopen the shop, but left within a week. Said she couldn't sleep inside. Claimed she heard whispering in a language she didn't understand. Eventually, the building was left to rot. Children avoided it. Elders crossed themselves when passing by. But the tale of Mama Sekinat and her silent family became part of Agbede Crescent's oral history, told beside fires, at naming ceremonies, during long power cuts. Aisha never forgot, nor did the dogs. Because sometimes the most important warnings come not in words, but in barks. And the greatest danger is not the thing we see, the thing we